Hi, greetings, Spell Hunters. Well, a look at Supernatural Season 1 now continues on with the episode Hookman. Okay, here we go. At the Ada sorority in Eastern Iowa University, we see two girls discussing clothes in their room. One, a girl named Lori, tries on a top lent by a roommate, which is more revealing than she's used to, and then goes to meet her boyfriend. At 9 Mile Road under a bridge at nighttime, a 4x4 pulls up and we see it's Lori and her guy Rich. They start to kiss, but Lori's phone rings. It's her dad, so she doesn't pick up and continues to kiss. Rich tries to put his hands under Lori's top, but she resists. He puts a bit of pressure on her. We see a figure in the shadows watching. He has a hook and scratches along two nearby roadsides before vanishing. Rich and Lori hear the noise and Rich goes to investigate. Something invisible attacks the car and we see the tires burst and an elongated scratch along the bodywork. Lori locks herself in and screams. After a while, when it's gone silent, Lori gets out of the car and finds Rich's body hanging upside down for the bridge, blood pooling under him. Ugh. Outside a cafe at daytime, Dean and Sam are still making inquiries about their dad. Sam calls off a public phone and Dean shows him a newspaper clipping about an invisible attack on a car in Iowa. They decide to investigate. At Eastern Iowa University, Dean and Sam arrive and pose as frat brothers from out of state. They ask for a room in the frat house and are put in with a guy named Murph. They ask him about the killing and he tells them Rich was with his girlfriend Lori Sorensen the night he died. He also says Lori is the local reverend's daughter. At the church, Reverend Sorensen is giving Rich a service when Dean and Sam walk in. They wait and talk with Lori afterwards. They ask questions and Sam tells her he knows how she feels to see someone hurt. Lori introduces them to her dad. Dean distracts the Reverend when Sam asks Lori more about what happened. She says she must have been seeing things that no one believes her. At the library, Sam and Dean talk about a Hookman legend and look at arrest records all the way back to 1851. Sam finds a case where a preacher named Jacob Carnes, who lost in an accident, murdered 13 prostitutes in 1862 with a silver hook he wore on his stump. It all happened on 9 Mile Road where Rich was killed. Outside the university, Lori argues with her dad in the car. He wants her to live at home, but she tells him no. She's old enough to make her own choices, and goes back to her dorm. She heads to her room where her roommate's already asleep, so to avoid disturbing her, Lori gets ready for bed in the dark. Back in 9 Mile Road under the bridge, Sam and Dean check the crime scene and are prepared with a shotgun full of rock salt. It won't kill the spirit of Carnes, but it will deter him. They are wrestled in the bushes, but it's not the Hook Man, it's the cops, and the brothers get arrested. Next morning in Lori's room, Lori awakens to find her roommate dead in bed in a pool of blood. There's a message on the wall in blood that says, "Aren't you glad you didn't turn on the light?" Underneath is a symbol made up of crosses. At the police station, Dean has told the sheriff Sam was a dumbass pledge and that they were hazing him. The sheriff believes the story and lets him go. Suddenly, cops come running from the station and speed off in their cars. Sam and Dean follow and find a new crime scene. Lori's there and the cops think she is somehow involved. They were actually going to let her dad take her home, though, after he insists they either arrest her or let her go. Meanwhile, Sam and Dean climb through a window and check the crime scene. From the smell and the symbol painted on the wall, they see it's a spirit and classic Hookman. The pair go back outside and are convinced it's the ghost of Jacob Carnes they're dealing with. They now need to find the body, salt and burn it. Sam says Carnes is somewhere in Old North Cemetery in an unmarked grave. At a university party, Sam shows Dean articles from both 1932 and 1967 about priests who were blamed for murders involving a sharp weapon. The boys think either Lori's dad is some Hookman, or the Hookman has latched onto the Reverend's repressed emotions and is feeding off them. Dean goes to find the Hookman's unmarked grave while Sam goes to keep an eye on Lori. At the cemetery that night, Dean is searching and he feels like he's being watched. He finds a grave marked with a symbol that was carved on the bedroom wall and begins digging, making the quip, "Next time, I get to watch the cute girl's house." His spade hits the coffin. Back at Lori's house, Sam was watching Lori from outside. He sees her arguing with her dad through the window. Then the light goes out and Lori joins Sam. He tells her he's watching because he's worried about her. Back at the cemetery, Dean salts and burns Jacob Carnes' bones and says, "Goodbye, preacher." Back at Lori's house, Lori tells Sam he just found out her dad is having an affair with the married woman, and she's obviously upset, saying he's a hypocrite and is going against God. She hugs him and then goes to kiss him. After a moment, Sam pulls away and says he can't. Lori's dad comes out and calls her in when suddenly the Hookman appears and attacks him from behind, dragging him into the house. Sam gives chase with a shotgun and stops the Hookman, killing Lori's dad by shooting him with rock salt. The Hookman vanishes. At the hospital, Lori's dad is being tended. Sam tells the sheriff about the Hookman, leaving out the fact that he's a ghost. Dean arrives and they talk. Sam wants to know why Dean didn't burn the bones, because the Hookman is still around. Dean says he did, and they realize they need to find and destroy the original Hook. They also realize the Hookman has latched onto Lori, not her dad. Dean makes a comment, "Remind me not to piss this girl off." At the library, the brothers research prison records and find the Hook was sent back to the church where Carnes was executed for murder in 1862, Lori's dad's church. Sam finds the Hook was then reforged by the church, but it doesn't say what into. At the church, Sam and Dean arrive and search for anything silver. They toss everything that is into the church furnace. There's a noise upstairs, and when they check, they find it's Lori. Sam stays with her while Dean goes back to finish the melting of the silver. Lori blames herself for the Hookman's appearance and is crying, which is building a resentment towards herself, which will summon the Hookman. Sam tries to console her, but the Hookman appears again and attacks them. They run, and Sam tries to protect Lori, but gets hooked through the arm. Dean arrives on scene and shoots the Hookman with salt again. He vanishes, and they realize his silver from the Hook is yet to be melted. It's a cross on Lori's neck, a church heirloom given to her by her father. Dean takes the cross to melt and gives Sam the shotgun. Sam fights with the Hookman, even though he's hurt, but the ghost takes the gun away and is about to kill them when the cross melts in the furnace and he vanishes in a shower of sparks. Outside, Sam is getting his arm tended by paramedics while Dean spends the yarn to the sheriff. Lori's there and thanks Sam. Dean gets in the Apollo and watches. He knows Sam liked Lori. Sam gets to the car and Dean says that they could stay there, but Sam shakes his head and they ride off once again into the sun. And now let's take a look at some trivia surrounding this episode. The CW's official summary mistakenly calls Hookman a vengeful spirit when he is in fact a violent spirit. This is the first and only time the Apollo spotlight was used when driving up to investigate the murder site on 9 Mile Road. The Apollo spotlight on the car was removed in Season 3. I wonder why. So anyway, this episode is pretty interesting, I guess you could say, so yeah. Well, so overall, I give Hookman 3 out of 5 3 angel blades out of 5. Well, anyway, tune in next time as we take a look at my least favorite episode from Season 1, Bugs. So, until then, carry on, my wayward sons and daughters.